But so isn't it odd though that if you just go through, you said a lot of them were apolitical or didn't think much about politics, but if you
Hmm.
just go through the American education system as like a regular ass person, you will come out a conservative. Like it's built
Yeah.
to make you a conservative, and like that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, definitely. And especially like the school that I went to, it was like a pretty like middle class school, um, but almost all white, like predominantly white for sure. Um, so there really was just no exposure to any other point of view on any subject. Like all of our teachers were white, and I mean, you only know what you know about the world.
Yeah.
So we all go through the school system thinking we're learning how the world works and like how history happened and stuff like that. And if you're never exposed to more than that, then that's what you know and that's what you
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, if you're never exposed to it, and especially if you're part of that group. I've said many times that
Yeah.
if I were a white guy, I would probably still be a Republican today. I mean, and of course, there's plenty of white guys who grew up conservative and aren't conservative any longer, but the majority of them stay conservative. And so, seeing the world through the lens of a minority does shape things a lot. And if you're
Yeah.
not a minority and you're only around other non-minorities, it's pretty much guaranteed you're going to be a conservative.
Yeah, definitely. Um, we really like people joke about this a lot and talk about it, but like we learned like, oh, the Civil War was about states' rights, and the missions in Texas. I mean, there were missions all over the place, but there were a lot of them in Texas, Spanish missions. That those were just like helping the Native Americans to learn how to be civilized and stuff like that. Um, it was a very skewed version of history, very whitewashed version of history. And it comes across as being incredibly neutral the way that it's taught. Um, like, I don't, that's kind of my biggest problem with the public school system in general is that the stuff it's not taught in a way where you can tell that it has a bias.
Yeah.
Like, you watch Fox News and you know that that's an extreme right wing bias, but it always has this like neutrality to it where it seems like you're just getting unbiased straight up information, and it's not until you learn more that you're like, hold on a second.
Yeah, yeah. I like to say that I didn't come up with this, but the United States history, we don't teach history, we teach mythology. We teach
Yeah.
like these founding legends. And so uh and honestly, the way that we teach history, this isn't limited to the United States, but the way we teach history is very flawed in that it's like the great man style of history. It's
Hmm.
like, yeah, it's like, hey, this person was so awesome or this person was so evil that they caused this, instead of actually analyzing the material conditions and the reality of the people that experienced it. And what happens is we end up creating like these two boxes of history. We create
Yeah.
good people boxes and bad people boxes. And so the founding fathers, well, they get in the good people box because that's where our origins come from. And yeah, the founders, they're good, so we should respect them. Of course, they were human beings, they had their flaws, but
Mhm.
overall they were good people and we should respect them as such. And you're taught this year after year after year in school. Everyone repeats it when you get out of school. It's repeated in common in popular culture. So whenever you bring up like any of the atrocities by the founding fathers, people get really upset by it. Like, no, what are you
Yeah.
doing? You're tarnishing the reputation of a good person. It's like, no, that's not how you need to look at history. You look at history as in what were this person like. If we're looking at a person, what were their ideas? What were their words? What were their actions? And what effects did they have on the environment and the people? And what can we learn from that? But we're so busy, trying to, either canonize or demonize people that we lose sight of that.
Yeah, definitely. I made a video about something kind of along those lines one time about the like Confederate statues and stuff and how people get so upset. Yeah, and how people get so offended talking about historical figures and Exactly what you said. They feel like you're tarnishing the legacy of a good person. Um, and it's because we do have this like mythological view of it, and it's so narrative based. Like the way that we learn about history is very narrative based, and the
Yeah.
narrative we learn is always of these, great people. And who makes who makes it into the history books as being a great person, but people from the wealthy class. Like that's who has access to the ships to go be an explorer, or that gets to be a philosopher, or discover new things. Like it's people that grow up wealthy, so we're really just completely separated from the working class and the poor throughout history. Like we never learn about that point of view, really.
Yeah, that's entirely true. And it's really frustrating because there's a lot more to learn there than there is in like the individual actions of princes and generals. Like that, you can learn a lot more about history than seeing what's going on at the top. I did
Yeah.
want to mention about I tell you what I don't understand though. I do get it. Like if someone is just like really, really dedicated into defending the honor of Benjamin Franklin or something, okay, all right, I guess I can understand that. I don't get it for the Confederacy. I don't. And even as a kid, like growing up in a school that did defend the Confederacy, it never made any sense to me because they try to walk this fine line in saying that slavery was bad, but the Confederacy was actually good. And it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, because like I do get wanting to defend, Thomas Jefferson wrote the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom. Okay, all right, that's good. So we should respect that. But fucking Jeb Stuart,
Yeah.
I mean, like Braxton Bragg. Why do we got to defend these guys? I never understood that, even as a conservative kid.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like people really defend it in like like they take it as a personal attack.
They do.
So that's what they're defending. Like they're defending themselves more than they're defending like the actual Confederacy. I think part of it might have to do with the way that in America we just don't really have very much culture. Like white people don't have very much culture. Um, and I think that that's something that a lot of us really want to have. So we try to like attach ourselves to cultures, like kind of create it for ourselves almost. Um, and a lot of people from the South have like a really deep attachment to Southern culture,
Yeah.
um, including the Confederacy, because of that. And if they have to, demonize the Confederacy or like look at it for what it actually was, then they're going to have to kind of distance themselves from that aspect of what they consider to be really the only aspect of their culture.
Yeah. That's true. It's and it's this the reflexive defense of people who obviously did something wrong. And it's really funny to me because I made a video a while ago talking about how in the United States your average black person is 20% white. And because of the rape from the slave owners and everything. And people sometimes they'll use it as a gotcha. It's like, aha, well, your ancestors were slave owners too. It's like, yeah, and I don't feel the need to defend them. Like, why is that so hard
Yeah.
for you? It's pretty easy to say, I don't care if my ancestor did it, it was still pretty fucked up. But as far as like white culture and everything, this is a great point. It's a great point because in like United States, white people have assumed the identity of whiteness, which isn't a thing really. It's just like this,
Mhm.
and it's such a shame because I never thought about the way you put it is that they're trying to create some sort of culture because, like Irish people aren't Irish Americans anymore. They're white. You've given
Yeah.
away all your Irish heritage, your Irish culture. You've given away Scottish heritage, German heritage. You've given French. You've given it all away to be white and it doesn't mean anything. And so you'll glob onto anything to try to create some sort of ex nihilo culture out of nothing. That's a pretty good point.
When I was like growing up, the first like 10 years of my life, I lived in South Texas, and it was just way more diverse. Like the school I went to was like we had like four white people in the school. Like it was like the opposite of where I ended up in high school. Um, and we would go over to our friend's house that were Indian, and they would have like Bollywood stuff playing on TV, and they had like their outfits and did like their traditional dances and stuff like that. And I was just so not jealous, but like sad that I didn't
Uh,
have anything like that, you know, like that.
well,
Um,
you didn't have the boot scoot boogie. I mean, you didn't. I mean, didn't that compare to?
and Texas really isn't like as southern as the other southern states are. Like
Yeah,
it's very
it's
weird because it's like
Western. It's Western more than Southern, I'd say. Texas. It's more like, it's closer to Arizona than it is to Alabama. And so yeah,
yeah.
that's true. That's a good point. Southern Texas. So I used to date a girl in Houston 1,000 years ago, and we would. I remember going to Corpus Christi, seeing the South. South Texas is incredibly diverse, and I North Texas, I don't know. Actually, I think about it because the only part I've seen is the South part. Because I went to San Antonio and everything. So when you said like it was an all white area you grew up in, that did sound strange to me because I've been to Texas, but I've only been a couple cities, but
Yeah.
I did not see like a lack of minorities where I went.
Um, I lived in Beaumont, so it's not even like a big city. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a really small city. And yeah, it was very diverse, but up here, you're only going to get that if you're in an actual city. Like all of the suburbs are like pretty much completely white.
Mm-hmm.